Awesome. Let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Heroes Connect Military to Manufacturing event. We are excited to be speaking with 4 companies who are actively seeking military talent. These events were designed to help the broader military community better understand and get to know the manufacturing industry. So welcome again. Let me introduce myself. My name is Lauren Bloomer, and I am a program manager with the Manufacturing Institute. I oversee the Heroes Make America Military Skill Bridge Training Program at Fort Liberty. Today, we are featuring one of our association partners, SEMI, and 4 of their member companies, Intel, Microchip, Nikon Precision, and ASM. The semiconductor industry is massive in terms of our daily lives and overall technological advances. I am excited to have you all learn more about what semiconductors are and how they could be a part of your next career chapter. Before I introduce our first speaker, I briefly want to cover some general participation guidelines. First off, as you heard that little audio, this event is being recorded and sent out as a part of a recap email. Please be sure that you stay muted throughout the presentation to minimize background noise. Lastly, I encourage all of you to be an active participant. Utilize the chat feature during the presentation to drop in questions that you have. We will hold on answering questions until the end of the presentation, but we'll circle back to them during the Q&A portion. At that time, please feel free to also utilize the raise hand feature so you can come on and ask your questions live. Overall, events like these are your opportunity to join in on the discussion and ask questions of these industry leaders who you may not normally have access to. So let's go ahead and take a moment to practice utilizing the chat feature. Go ahead and open it up and drop in the location where you'll be job searching. While you were doing that, I also want to briefly highlight the Manufacturing Institute's Heroes Make America Military Skill Bridge Training Program. We have many of our current students on this call, but we also have other military-affiliated participants, company representatives, and community partners from across the country joining us today. For those of you who may not know, Heroes Make America, what Heroes Make America is, we are a DoD-approved skill bridge program for transitioning service members, veterans, and military spouses. We provide a variety of certification trainings, as you see here, that go towards careers in the manufacturing and supply chain industries. Our students learn a variety of topics to include safety, quality practices, various technical trainings like electrical, mechanical, pneumatic training, and also logistics training. We will drop our program manager's contact information to the chat, so you'll be able to connect with any one of us if you do have further questions. In addition to our SkillBridge offerings, we also host a variety of other virtual events to include these weekly Heroes Connect events and our quarterly Vets to Manufacturing virtual career fairs. Our next virtual career fair is actually taking place this coming Friday, August the 25th, and we are so excited. We will drop the link into the chat so that you can get registered today. And without further ado, let's move forward to the main feature. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Melinda Gomez, Manager of Veteran Initiatives with SEMI. Melinda, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Lauren. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be with you all this afternoon. As Lauren mentioned, my name is Melinda Gomez. I'm with SEMI, and I'm leading our veteran initiatives over here and working with our member companies across the country to make sure that they recognize and are actively working to attract and retain military talent. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this crazy diagram here is just a small representation of all of the companies and areas that fall into the semiconductor industry. So we have 2,500 member companies worldwide. Here in the US, I think we have a little over 500 member companies, and that can be anywhere from small startups who are working on design components up to, some of these bigger brands that you see and likely use on a daily basis. Our members currently have over 32,000 openings across the country. I have a feeling it's getting slightly higher than that these days with all of the funding and attention and growth that's happening. But as you can see on here, it's kind of broken down into 4 or 5 main components. So we have in that center area, the design automation, So that's, what's going into the machines and the actual chips, all of the different components and machines that are building and developing that up to the semiconductors, and then ultimately those final products that you use. Can we go to the next piece of this slide here? These are broken into 4 main components of growth. So we have smart data and artificial intelligence, smart mobility, med tech, and manufacturing. And as you can see right below those little areas, these are our goals. These are the goals that are set out primarily by the US, and what's driving this industry and the innovation that's happening there. So machine learning, all the advancements there. I'm sure all of you have had some fun playing with ChatGPT. I know I have, testing it out and seeing the capabilities there. All the new features in your phone and in your cars, and all the different aspects that are just a part of our daily lives. You don't really think about what goes into that and what's making that capability happen. So as we kind of progress through here, can you hit that one more time, Lauren? Just keeps going. So this industry here is around $2.8 trillion of the US economy right now, and it's expected to grow quite a bit over the next couple of years, in large part due to, honestly, due to the pandemic, right? So when we had chip shortages, we had all of these geopolitical conflicts kind of coming up, there became a larger need to bring all of that domestic. So you'll hear from some of our partners about what they're doing about that and ways that they're growing here in the US. And as we kind of get into some of this, you'll see all the different opportunities that come with that. Can we go to the next slide, please? So why would this be an industry that we want you to work in? First of all, it's stable, right? We're only using more and more chips in our lives. I mean, my refrigerator has a shocking number of chips in it. It's a high growth industry. There's so much areas that are advancing and growing. And we know that members of the military community are looking for that kind of career, right? Like you want to get in somewhere, you want to see where you can go in 2 years and 5 years and 10 years. And you'll hear from some veterans today about what they've done on their career paths and ways that they've advanced in the industry. Everything that we're used to utilizing daily, different apps, mostly apps, gaming systems, homes, cars, all the things. You want to be on the cutting edge of all of this. Can we go into the next slide, please? Of course, the biggest question we get all the time, where are these opportunities? Where, as Lauren had you put them all your locations or what you're targeting in the chat there. I feel like most of you fall into one of these hubs. Like these are the areas of high growth. This is, of course, not exclusive of all the opportunities, but these are the areas, especially the ones with the big circles there, that have a lot of growth happening right now in new developments in manufacturing across the country, and all the different kind of categories that they fall into. Let me go into the next slide, please. I mentioned this briefly in the beginning, but the Chips and Science Act, if you are not familiar with that, that's legislation that was passed last year and puts a whole lot of money into US domestic manufacturing, specifically in this industry. So there's incentives for companies to grow their facilities out here, to expand their operations, to help innovate and fund new research and development happening here. And of course, it's one of very few things that I think across the political spectrum, everyone can agree on as really important to our national security and the future of our economy. You go to the next slide. And the next most common question is, are there specific MOSs that are best fit for this industry? And I mean, yes and no, right? Like these are the most common ones that have the easiest translation, I think. But as these companies will share with you, you guys have a lot more than simply your MOS that you're bringing to the table. And that's why they're here and they want to talk with you. The training that you're in right now, your careers in the military, all the different aspects can build into this industry. And these are just a few snapshots of what those skills might be and the most common roles that we see kind of being filled by them. And next slide. And I saw it get dropped in the chat, but there is our career portal that got launched a couple months ago that you're going to want to save, and you're going to want to set aside some time, like at least an hour probably, to kind of dig into it, because it's pretty cool. This tool has some career exploration where you can look at what are the different sectors of the semiconductor industry that exist, whether it's in quality or safety or engineering, HR, sales, finance, all the different aspects that kind of go into making us run. And then it has an awesome little job match tool just for the military. So you can go in there, you can put in your MOS, you can put in any past roles that you've had, any experience, certifications, degrees. You can do a skills assessment, an interest assessment, and then it's going to be like, hey, you would be a great fit for all these different things. So it'll give you recommendations. It'll tell you if there's training that's needed for those recommendations. It's going to tell you your salary expectation of what that could look like for you, the growth potential, the different roles that you could evolve into, and finally, who's hiring for those things and where are they? So it's pretty awesome. You're definitely going to want to save that and do some digging in there and watch some of the videos and just learn as much as you can. And with that, next slide here, that is it from me. I am going to turn it over to my friends here who want to talk about their companies, their experiences, and why we need you in this industry. So Don, over to you.
Great, thanks so much, Melinda. I appreciate that, and thank you also for the invite to come and speak to our service members. It's always such an honor to be here and be able to shed some light on what we're doing in the semiconductor industry and what we're looking to hire for in different roles for our company. But let me introduce myself first. If you can go to the next slide, I won't bore you too much, but this is me. I retired from the Air Force in 2021, and Intel was my first job coming out of the Air Force. I've been here for about a year and 10 months. And right now I'm a college relations manager, but I actually started off as a recruiter with the company. So to Melinda's point, there's a ton of different paths that you can go. If you look at my background as a veteran, I was a logistician, I was a recruiter, I was an ops manager. So lots of different backgrounds can take you to different places, but there's a lot more skills that you have coming out of the military than just what your role is right now. So you have to think about that. You bring a lot to the table, not just in hard skills, but also soft skills. And you can go to the next slide, please. So what do we do at Intel? We develop world-changing technology. When you think about the microchip, and Melinda also pointed to this, it's in just about everything we use nowadays. If you have a piece of electronic equipment, your phone, your toothbrush, whatever it may be, there's a microchip in it. So we're producing a lot of these chips, and a lot of these companies that are going to talk to you today are going to be telling you about not necessarily how they produce these chips, but why we produce these chips. And why we produce these chips at Intel is to improve the life of every person on the planet. That's the ultimate goal. So when you think about that, you think about the value of that, right? If you're looking to improve the life of every person on the planet, right? And how you do that, there's multiple ways to do that. And being that we're a microchip manufacturer, that's how we're able to do that. If you go to the next slide, please. So when we talk about the semiconductor industry, a lot of people don't understand, what that is. I know when I first joined Intel, I had no idea. And actually, Semi puts on a Semiconductor 101 briefing at a lot of the events we go to, and it's fantastic because it taught me a lot about semiconductors that I didn't understand. So if you don't know, definitely do some research. It's a pretty amazing process that goes into developing a semiconductor. So this is just kind of like a quick breakdown of what it is. And you think about your computer, your laptop, and you think about that motherboard, and you think about all those chips that are integrated into that motherboard and all the information that's being processed and how quickly it's being processed. And there is a process to making that wafer where we create chips, and then we build those out into a microchip with multiple different layers. And why is that important right now? If you paid attention to what's going on in the news with China and pulling our manufacturing out of there, not selling equipment to China anymore, where we land is bringing jobs back to the US and bringing jobs to the European Union. And the second piece of that is if you look at what's at the bottom of the slide, by 2027, we predict that this is going to be a $726 billion venture. And going into 2030, it's going to be a $1 trillion venture. And that's important because that means jobs, right? As we build out our factories in the United States, it means jobs for people. And it doesn't matter if it's the big Intel or if it's a supplier that feeds Intel. So there's jobs everywhere, all over the US. If you go to the next slide, please. Excuse me. And one of the things, Melinda talked about is, where you can go in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. This is Intel's journey and where they've gone over decades. So, right now we're building out factories in this IDM 2.0 concept. So when we think about IDM, all that means is that we develop and we manufacture chips. So I don't want anybody to get confused by that, but that being said, it's been a journey and technology moves so quickly, and Intel has been at the forefront of most of the movements as it relates to the microchip. So go ahead and go to the next slide for me. And then when you think about location, where can you go? A lot of us that are in the US, we tend to start here in the US, but then we can travel to other places throughout the globe. So this is just a small snapshot. We're in over 50 countries and we have over 120,000 employees. So, and you can get involved just about anywhere in all these countries. So there's opportunities not just for travel, but to be someplace else that you might want to see or be at if there's an opportunity there for you. And you can go to the next slide. And what makes Intel unique? I think no matter what company you join, what makes that company unique is the values of that company. So can you see yourself at a company that puts the customer first, that desires fearless innovation from all of its employees, that's results driven, that's inclusive, that prides itself on quality and integrity. And the One Intel is all about teamwork. So that's one thing that drew me most. That's why I saved it for last. Intel is really about teamwork. So I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself, and I wanted to be part of a team where people work together and just translate what I learned in the military over to this organization or this company. And it's been a fantastic transition for me. And you can go to the next slide, please. And then the other piece of that is, what do we do? When we talk about corporate social responsibility, right? We like to think of ourselves as a responsible company in terms of, producing net zero carbons. We're inclusive, we're sustainable, and we also like to, enable not only, the technology, but all of the other things that feed into that technology. So we have to make sure that we as a company are living up to that purpose and corporate social responsibility. So we not only want to take care of ourselves, but we want to take care of the people that work for us, and we want to take care of the environment around us. So, and I also appreciate that about Intel. So you can go to the next slide. And then when we talk about Intel benefits, everybody's interested in, what they get paid and what they receive. So you can go to the next slide. And this is just a basic overview. A lot of our technicians, they do a compressed work week, which is very similar to what we do in the military: 4 on, 3 off, 3 on, 4 off. We have time off. We have sabbaticals. Sabbaticals, if you're with the company for at least 4 years, you actually get 4 weeks off with all your benefits. So it's a great incentive. And there's other things on here as well. So if you have any questions about that, you can hit me up later and we can talk about it. I don't want to run into anybody else's time here. And then go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm sorry if I'm talking too fast. You can throw some questions in the chat and I'll get to them after. And then in terms of career pathways, I think this is the most important. So you can go to the next slide. This is just a complete overview of where we're looking to hire right now and what's going to be one of the main areas we hire for in the future. When we think about what we do at Intel, it's all about our fabrication facilities, and you'll hear them referred to as fabs. So the technicians that we have in the fabs, the manufacturing technicians, equipment technicians, automation technicians, and facility technicians, they are the heart of what we do. Without those fabs that run 24/7, 365, we can't produce the microchips that relate to that world-changing technology that we're trying to produce to affect everybody on this planet. So this is just kind of like a quick breakdown. This one's a little bit more confusing. So if you can go to the next slide, and we can just kind of like click through slowly. So, if you do anything in manufacturing, which right now maybe you're not, but maybe you're learning it, you can transition pretty easily over to a manufacturing technician, and you can click the slide again. And same thing, if you're doing any type of engineering, it translates well into these fields, and you can click again. Electrical, same thing. It's definitely more transferable to just about all of our skill sets within the technician fields, and then click again. And then with our HVAC, like if you work facilities now, you're a civil engineer or anything like that, sometimes this translates over pretty well also, and you can click on the next one. And mechanic is pretty general. So if you're a mechanic of any kind, helicopter, aircraft, vehicle, diesel, all that stuff, this translates over really well also. You can click on the next one. And again, if you're like a civil engineer, this translates over, or maybe you work in, gases, or, again, potentially, there's an opportunity there working in facilities, and then go ahead and click the next one. Same thing here. If you're like a fuels technician or something like that, this translates over really well. If you do cryo or anything like that, go ahead and click. So overall, that's just a simple breakdown. I thought the most important thing was to focus on, the roles that we hire for mainly, which are the 4 technician roles. And then the second piece of that is location. So I mainly look at locations in Hillsboro, Oregon, here in Chandler, Arizona, and then also in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. So if you're interested in any of those locations, please reach out. I can help you through the journey. We don't have a specific veteran hiring team at Intel. So what I always ask people to do is just connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you're interested in any roles, let me know what those job roles are, and we'll transition you to a recruiter and or hiring manager, so you can have those discussions, be it whether they're on LinkedIn or just an email or a phone conversation with those folks that are looking to hire, to make sure that you're a good fit. I will say, what makes it all happen is people, and we're always looking for, the best and brightest minds to come to Intel, and that we just hope that, you're interested in coming and working for us. And I will say, use LinkedIn to connect with people in the different roles that you want at a company and that you're interested in, and at the location that you want to go to. So that will make your job search a little bit easier. If you need help with that, please feel free to reach out, and you can go to the next slide. And the last thing I would say is, if you're interested in applying, please take a picture of this, or go to that website, and then find the jobs that you might be interested in. If you're interested in a technician job, just type technician into that top bar of the search, and then start filtering that out from there. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to take those. I don't know where I am on time because I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry.
No worries at all. And feel free to drop your questions into the chat, and we can answer this all at the end. Or I know, Dawn will be watching the chat while the other presentations are going on. So feel free to put them there. And next up, we have Miss Samantha.
Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Samantha. I'm the Senior HR Business Partner for Microchip Technology in Colorado Springs. And I also have Mike Egan here with me. He's our Senior Manager for our Equipment Engineering team. And we're going to be speaking an overview of Microchip to give you an idea on the company, and then also focus a little bit on what we're looking for in particular in Colorado. And go ahead and next slide. So we kind of touched on it already, but do these items look familiar to you? Our products, our chips go into everyday household items. They go into automotive, medical. We're doing a lot with your green energies right now, and then also aerospace defense and NASA. So we make chips for the Mars rover, Xbox, all kinds of really cool customers. So when you're at home or anywhere else, take a look around and you might be surprised by where you find a microchip. Go ahead to the next slide. Microchip itself as a company, we divide how we run our business into different markets. We have a hand in almost every piece you can think of where our product would go. And that's really smart on Microchip's behalf. They make sure no one customer has more than about 3 to 5% of the company revenue. And that just ensures we're moving along in demand and profitability no matter what the economy is doing. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So just a little overview on us. Arizona is a hub for semiconductors, and that's where our headquarters is. But we also have 3 fabrication sites, of course, Colorado Springs, which we're representing today, Tempe, Arizona, and Gresham, Oregon. And at each of these sites, we're making our microchips that go out to various customers. Next slide, please. But we are located everywhere. So no matter where you're interested in, whether it's international, whether it's local to the United States, we're likely going to have a place for you. Each site does something slightly different. And we also are very unique in our sales aspect. If you're interested in sales, we have a non-commissioned sales team. Next slide, please. And as Don was talking on with Intel, we're the same. We have a set of guiding values that dictate what we do as a company. Every decision that Microchip makes gets tied back to these values. So they're very important, very critical for us. We evaluate how we're doing on these values once a year. So employees' input is very important to us for these values. And we also are shaped by a no layoff culture. And that ties back into the marketing structure that we have. But we want to make sure when we bring people in, we're bringing the right people in and we're keeping them here and giving them a place of security. Next slide. It's a little bit about our benefits. We could spend all day talking about this, but we won't. So some of the main ones that people are most interested in is we have a free on-site clinic. We have these at all of our facilities. It's 100% free healthcare for our employees and anyone 18 and older on their plans. We also have a gym on site that's 24/7 for all employees. We do paid volunteer days, and we also, every new hire, whether it's an entry-level operator or a high-level manager, everyone's getting stock in the company as well too. We've also had over 130 consecutive quarters of profitability, which is unheard of for our industry. And we get quarterly bonuses because of that profitability. And it's the same bonus for everyone across the board as well. Next slide. We are growing. So for Colorado Springs in particular, we had a big announcement go out not too long ago where we're going to be adding about 400 jobs to our team here. We already have just under 900 at our site, and we're spending just under 900 million to expand our capabilities. So we're investing a lot in your silicon carbides, your Tesla products, your solar panel chips, to do some new and cool, exciting things here in Colorado Springs. But we are growing our other sites as well too. So in particular, if Oregon interests you, our site out in Gresham is also doing a big investment in their location as well. Next slide. We are hiring around the clock. So you could look at our job board today and see hundreds of jobs, and then look 10 days from now and see a whole different set of jobs. So it's really important, no matter what company you're looking at, to constantly keep an eye on those job openings, because it's always changing, especially with demand. But we hire for entry-level, no experience production specialist roles here in Colorado Springs. We do see a lot of military experience transfer well as a starting point in that position, but we also see a ton of military experience transfer into our technicians, just like Don was referencing, your equipment facilities process. All of that plays such a critical role to our industry, and your skills do transfer very well into those positions. And then we also have engineering, supply chain management, kind of all over the board. Next slide. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mike, who again is our senior manager for equipment engineering. You're on mute, Mike.
Sorry about that. I'm honored and excited to be here. My point being here is to give you that comfort level. You know, after getting out of the military, I'm a veteran myself. I was in the Air Force. I had a plan. I had a plan to be an electrical engineer, but my first year out, I went to school, and I just questioned myself over and over again on if I was on the right path or not. Got my degree in electrical engineering in 2012, and I joined Microchip, which was Atmel before. And as of today, I've been with the company for 11 years. My plan was to come here to get some experience. I had no idea about, semiconductor fab. I didn't know, what they really did. I came into the area as an equipment engineer. So basically I was in charge of manufacturing equipment, the upkeep, the improvements, things like that. And then over the years, I've really enjoyed it, and I became was promoted to a manager back in 2017. And from there, I look back at the questions I had when I got out of the military and why this place has been so great to me. It's because, I looked for that family connection in the military. You have everyone, wives, husbands, kids, everyone there to back you up in the military. I was looking for that, and I was looking for a sense of purpose. I found both those here. What I found here was, you have 800 and something employees here at just this site in Colorado Springs. We're a tight knit family, I'd say here. You have family issues, things like that. We stick together, we help each other get through things, and the company is very understanding. We put family first, and also a sense of purpose. Samantha brought, the electronic chips that we make. One thing here, I remember making one time, we were looking at these chips. They were for managing all your smart functions on your cars. So your airbags, your automatic stop, things like that. That right there gave me the sense of purpose. We're making chips to help everyone around the world. And I thought that was very cool. And we're trying to, lower our environmental waste and things like that all the time. But overall, it's a family environment. Microchip takes care of you. The benefits are great. And you always have that person here to count on. And the great part is you can come into these roles. I came in as an engineer, but you can come in as a tech one all the way up on the equipment. You don't have to know anything, especially being military. It's that leadership that you've learned in the military that's really important to us. If you have that background, electrical engineering or just electronics, mechanics, things like that, that's just a plus. That just gets you higher up faster. But it's that leadership that you guys know that we need here. But yeah, overall, excellent place to work at. And I just wanted to let you guys know that the fear is there. The first year or two are scary, and then you find some place like this and that fear goes away. That's all I have. I have I think on our last slide there, sorry, I kind of skipped over things here, but our last slide has all our information on there. If you go to the next slide, it has Samantha's information right there and my information below that. So if you have any questions, just let us know. And I put my LinkedIn information on there too, and the messages. But feel free to contact us for any job too. We have multiple jobs. I'm in equipment engineering side, but we can help you find a different position in this company as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike and Samantha. I really appreciate you. And next up, we're going to have Mr. Odin with Nikon Precision.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Odin Munson. I'm the site manager with Nikon Precision. I'm based out of Chandler, Arizona. Really excited to be here today to tell you a little bit about Nikon and my experience working in the industry. But before I get into that, I just want to thank everyone who's served or is currently serving. I understand what a huge commitment that is, and know firsthand what a roller coaster ride it can be when it comes time to separate from the military. Well, I am a Navy veteran. I served for about 10 years. I went in as an undesignated airman, which they don't do anymore, which meant I really didn't have a job when I rolled into the Navy. I was fortunate enough to get assigned to a fighter squadron, VF 41 in Virginia Beach, Virginia, Tomcat squadron. And I worked as a plane captain before moving into avionics technician role. And in the late 90s, the Tomcats were fairly old. So a few years after that, they decommissioned them and we transitioned over to the FA-18 Super Hornets in Lemoore, California. Basically, my job as an avionics tech was anything dealing with communications, weapon systems, radar, and any of the lantern or flare pods for the laser guided bombs. And then I also did a tour as an instructor, helping the rest of the Tomcat squadrons transition to the new platform, along with new boot camp grads heading to their first assignment. I joined Nikon in February of 2006 as a field service engineer, where most of our folks start off with their career with Nikon. And our field service engineers provide support to our customers, mainly for installation and sustaining of our lithography equipment. Tell you a little bit about MPI. We were established in 1982, so we've been in business for over 40 years. We are a subsidiary of the Nikon Corporation. Our headquarters is in Hillsboro, Oregon. We have over 450 employees. As I mentioned, our field service engineers take up a large majority of our support, but we do have other engineering and support functions with employees in 17 states. And one thing that's really nice is people tend to stick around. Our average tenure is about 15 years for everyone. Next slide. As I mentioned, we are a subsidiary of Nikon Corp, who's been around for over 100 years. They're headquartered in Tokyo, Japan, which has over 18,000 employees worldwide, with 87 group companies. Next slide. This is a slide here shows a little bit of history of Nikon. I'll touch on a few of those. Starting around 1917, Nikon started developing binoculars and microscopes. After World War II, they shifted into producing cameras, binoculars, surveying and measuring equipment. In the 50s, Nikon Optical Company was established, which allowed Nikon to export cameras to the US and also conduct technical services and research. And then the 80s, in 1984, our Kumagaya plant, one of our plants in Japan, was built. And this is just one of the factories where our machines are developed before they're shipped over to the States. Next slide. So some fun facts is, previous slide, Nikon's a lot more than cameras, but our precision equipment is one of our largest revenue sources for Nikon. And our machines do play a really important role in the semiconductor manufacturing, which I know some of the previous speakers have talked about. Pretty much anything that has a chip inside, your cars, satellites, smartphones, all your appliances, your robot vacuums you've got running around your house, and more. A little bit about field service engineers. It's a hands-on job. They're working in a clean room environment. You might have seen pictures before of a clean room where people are wearing the bunny suits. And they're a huge part of our success. Sometimes they're performing installations, which could take a couple of months to complete all the setups and dial all the systems in that are required. And also responding to machines that are up and running, troubleshooting errors, analyzing results, and help develop action plans and determine what parts need to be replaced, and dialing in various alignment systems. There's also a lot of modifications and upgrades. This is a picture here of some of the folks in the factory getting some training on our stage. As with a lot of companies in the semiconductor industry, we work a compressed shift, 3 days on, 4 days off, and 4 days on, 3 days off. So you get to work half the month. So you've got time to take care of your schoolwork if you're enrolled in school, take care of a doctor's appointments or family events without having to take your time off, and you can actually save your vacations for vacation time. We do work 12-hour shifts, which allows us to provide 24/7 coverage to our customer. And you're working as a team. You're never alone. Each shift has several field service engineers and tech support members. And you're working as a team, as many of you did in the military, to get your job done. Next slide. This is a slide here. It has our QR code and the link to our website. Please log on, check us out. It tells you a little bit about the machines we make. All of the QR code will allow you to view the opportunities in the different locations throughout the US. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. I'll be happy to get you in touch with a recruiter or tell you more about the job.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Odin. And
Thank you.
if you do have any questions specifically about Nikon Precision, again, make sure to drop them in the chat so Odin can look at them during the next presenter, or that we can answer them here in just a few minutes. And we'll pass it off to our next company, Mr. Jordan with ASM.
Thank you, Lauren. Well, like everyone said, it's an honor to be speaking with you all here today. I'm very excited to talk a little bit more about ASM, explain what our part is in the semiconductor industry. I feel like our side of what we do can sometimes get lost in the midst of some of the big announcements that we've seen lately with Intel new fabs, TSMC, Microchip. I mean, there's been a lot of news in the industry lately. So really excited to give you all some more information here and share what openings we have. But my name's Jordan. I work out of our Phoenix office here. This is really our headquarters for our US operations. We do support other fabs, manufacturing centers across the US, and then our global headquarters is in Leuven, Belgium. So we are a Dutch-based company, but we've got operations globally. Next slide, please. So who are we? ASM, we've been around for over 50 years. We were initially founded in the Netherlands. That's where we got our start. And just over the years, we've expanded into different regions. The United States, our company was really one of the first equipment manufacturers that made that connections from the US startup that was going on with the semi industry back in the 70s, 80s to the European side of things. So definitely a pioneer in the industry. We've been here for a long time. We focus at this point specifically on equipment that is used for a process called deposition. So not to get too much into the weeds, but to get one of those chips that you see on the screen there, that it's got the rainbow of colors, you need to get the material onto the surface. That's what our equipment does. That's what we specialize with within the company. Few different ways of doing that process of getting the material onto the surface, but we've pretty much playing all of them. Leader and atomic layer deposition, that's really the main form of that deposition process that we work within. Hold around 56% of the global market share at this point, but we're looking to be pretty aggressive in some other areas as well. So the next bullet down there, last year we entered the high growth silicon carbide epitaxy equipment business. Epitaxy, again, not to get too much into the weeds here, that's another form of deposition. And it's primarily being used right now for the new electric vehicles. There are other purposes for it, but that's really the primary driver of why, in terms of methods of depositing that material, epitaxy is being viewed as a very key area as we move into the next 5, 10 plus years. So we had acquired a company out of Italy fall of last year, I want to say around October timeframe, that allowed us to build upon our patents that we already had with the things that they were doing, allowing us to be a lot more aggressive in this space. But overall, what we do at the end of the day, you've heard this from some others, we're working to make positive impacts in the world. The enhancements that our equipment enables chip manufacturers, it allows them to do next gen technology. The new iPhones, the new electric vehicles, your new laptops with the faster processors. Deposition plays a part in enabling that technology. Next slide, please. So to reiterate, we make the machines and develop the processes that take place inside those machines. So we're not at scale, we're not a chip manufacturer. The companies like Intel, Samsung, TSMC, essentially our customers. We provide them with some of the equipment that they need, again, for that deposition. Now, dependent on what they are producing chips for, if it's going to be going into a laptop, a mobile phone, a vehicle, or being used for database servers, that's going to affect the product line that we're going to sell to them, and even the recipe that takes place inside the machine, or the process that takes place for how we deposit that material onto the surface. Next slide, please. So again, I'm going to start on the left. The strengths of the company: atomic layer deposition and epitaxy. Again, that's two different forms of essentially putting material onto the surface of the wafer. That drive to compete, the acronyms there, essentially two other forms of deposition that are used dependent on what the chip is being produced for. But very strong history and innovation. Our model is to work with those customers I had mentioned for next gen technology. A great example is the TSMC facility that is in progress of being built right now in Phoenix. We've been working with them for a couple of years now at this point to develop technology that when they are up and running, it'll be state of the art. No one else is going to have it. So we get ahead of it with customers and working with them, while also doing some of our own R&D with in-house. So on the right-hand side there, again, we are the market leader for single wafer atomic layer deposition technology, which is a newer form, I'd say, in industry. It's been around academically. You could find it on campuses for a long time, but as far as a company that has fabs across the country or across the world utilizing it, it's newer within the past 15, 20 years. And then that expanded market position within the epitaxy market for us to really keep our growth going. But the common thing that you'll see with all wafer fab equipment providers, that's what WFE stands for there, you'll see that there's growth across all of us within the past 5-6 years. The industry's been growing, so we've been growing as well to keep pace with that. ASM, we've been growing 1.5 times faster than the rest of that market for equipment providers. So I'll let you all draw your own conclusions from that. Next slide, please. So overview, this is a very simplistic overview of what the process looks like to manufacture a chip. It starts on the left there with cutting out your wafer dies. And then the first step after that is depositing the material. You'll see there's 2 steps throughout that process where deposition is needed. So it is a critical component within that manufacturing life cycle. It's not something that a chip manufacturer can go without. We by no means are the only company that has this equipment, but again, leaders in some areas of the space and very aggressively growing market share in other areas as well. Next slide, please. So those key markets that I had mentioned that we play within: atomic layer deposition and epitaxy. Why are those 2 areas that we're so focused on? Forecasts for those markets by 2025 globally, both of those markets are supposed to double. So you can see right here, I mean, ALD 3.1 to 3.7 billion, epitaxy 1.5 to 1.8 billion, and then there are additional areas of deposition that we also play in. But this is why we as a company are so focused on ALD and epitaxy. These are really the newer forms for this process within industry that are starting to become more commonplace, and we are a household name for this equipment. Next slide, please. Core values. So beyond the technology, what makes ASM ASM? 3 core values. We keep it pretty clean cut. We care, we innovate, and we deliver. How we care, that extends beyond just our employees, how we care for them with our compensation, our benefits, the different resources they have. It extends into the communities, how we stay involved with all of the communities that we operate within the countries that we do business. How do we ensure that we are a benefit to have in these areas and not something that they need to deal with. We innovate. That's been really the key topic so far of the conversation. We are at the end of the day, we are an R&D based company. A lot of our positions that we have in our main hubs, like here in Phoenix and then in Leuven, Belgium, Singapore, a lot of the engineers that you'll see at those facilities are focused on research and development. So creating IP, working on solutions that are still 2-3 plus years down the road. And then we deliver. We deliver on our promises. We deliver on our expectations. The things that we share with our customer in terms of timelines and how we can deliver, that's what our reputation is staked upon. So these three areas, we take them very serious. It's how we live and breathe our days here at ASM. Next slide, please. Customer awards. So I want to just add on to how we deliver. You'll recognize some of these companies as leading names in the semiconductor industry. They're household names. We are valued collaborators with them. We're valued partners. We are embedded within their supply chains. We've been working with these companies here on the screen, but a multitude of companies within the semiconductor industry for decades, growing relationships, having the insight of knowing what's coming so that we can stay ahead of that. So just wanted to highlight these here for you all. Next slide, please. And if you click one more time, it should make that chart on the right move for us. So what I wanted to show here, the innovation factor. So what you're looking at here on the right-hand side, it started in 2012 and it's making its way to 2022. And this is tracking us, ASM, you can see us there, as well as other companies within our industry. Some of these dots represent competitors, some of them represent customers. The size of the bubble that you see on that chart is the overall size of their product portfolio. How many patents do they have in place? The height of it on the chart is how impactful that product portfolio is on the market. So don't need to talk about it too much more than that. You can see that ASM, our focus is on competitive research, impactful R&D. We want to stay ahead of things that are coming so that when new fab announcements come through, we're ready to go with that next gen technology. So again, just wanted to highlight that this is really the key focus for the company is innovation of new technology. Next slide, please. Okay, so job opportunities for transitioning military. This is by no means the end all be all of the opportunities that we have here for veterans, transitioning service members, military spouses. But this is what I'd say probably the common types of roles that you'll see where, especially for transitioning service members, we will see a lot of transferable skill sets. I'll start with the top two, field service engineer and field service manager. Those kind of fall within the same ballpark. Really what those two roles are dedicated to, they're customer facing roles. So these positions, we have opportunities throughout the United States, wherever our customers have a manufacturing location. Could be here in Phoenix, it could be in the Bay Area, it could be in the Northwest. We've got openings right now in Texas. We will soon have openings in Ohio with the new Intel fab that'll be opening up there. So, any location in the US and beyond, we've got these teams globally where that chip manufacturing is taking place. These individuals are dedicated to those sites to provide support, to perform new installations, to remove old equipment, and just general uptime. Something to point out with these two roles, a reason why, I think it was Donald who mentioned soft skills as being a big reason why we're here today. These manufacturing facilities, it can be a very stressful environment at times. The equipment that are in these facilities, millions and millions of dollars worth of equipment. If one of them stops working or if it goes down for an hour or two, that can be tens, hundreds of thousands of missed revenue for the customer. As deadlines are approaching for new installations or for just getting sites ready to go, this is the group that works on it. So what we've found is that not just the technical aptitude, but service members, veterans have that ability to deal with potential stressful situations that pop up at these sites. It's just something that over time can be taught, but we find that service members coming in, they understand how to manage some of that just off the jump. So field service engineer, again, that's front lines with the customers. The field service manager is going to be overseeing that team of engineers on the site. Technical product support and global product support, we call those TPS and GPS. So if you're on our career site and you see a TPS engineer, GPS engineer, that's what this is referring to. Again, those two are somewhat grouped together, but to explain the differences, the technical product support engineers, you will be centrally located in a main hub. So our team sits here in Phoenix for our US operations, And what they work on is product enhancements. So existing product that we have out in the field with our customers, the input that we get from our engineers, the input that we're getting from our customers, what enhancements can we make to that equipment? So they work with our electrical engineering teams, our hardware teams, our process teams to make those improvements. And then that technical product support group, they own the new enhancements. They'll travel out to sites, they'll work with those field service groups to do the installations, make sure things are up and running as they should be, and then they come back home. Our global product support engineers, pretty similar, but instead of working on product enhancements, you're working on brand new technology. So new equipment that we're going to be shipping out to customers. And like the TPS engineers, the global product group, they also travel out and assist with making sure everything is operational as it should be. Next slide, please. Application overview. So just high level here. We can't take an actual formal action of interviewing you until you submit the application. I'm more than happy to connect with anyone and answer some general questions about the company. But in terms of speaking with the recruitment team, speaking with managers and getting that process going, you do need to submit an application first. Overview of what that's going to look like. You'll get an initial phone screen call from a recruiter to talk through your background, give you some more details on the opening. Then you'll move into interviews with the team. So the initial, we say 1 to 4 rounds. I'd say it's typically closer to 3 that you'll be going through. The initial interview is a panel style interview with the group. So if you're interviewing with the field service group, if you're interviewing with the technical product support, that first interview, you're going to meet with about 2 to 3 members of the team, where they're going to take you through day to day. They're going to take you through what they're looking for, what your main responsibilities are, and answering some of those initial questions you might have. Moves to a one-on-one between yourself and the hiring manager. Similar conversation, just a bit more pointed with the person that's making the call for his team. And then that third and final interview is typically with the hiring manager's director, the person that oversees the group. So 3 interviews is typically what you're going to be looking at with us. Timing to get through this process, once you get things up and going, we say to expect about 2 to 4 weeks to get through the interview cycle, to get an offer or a hiring decision, whatever that's going to look like. Next slide, please. Okay, so while this is the last slide, I just have a couple final things to mention. The QR code here on the screen. So this is going to take you to our careers site. A couple different things that you can do within the careers site. You can navigate through current openings. You can sign up for our talent community. So what that is if you don't see any current openings that fit, maybe it's a location, maybe it's just a role that you're not seeing that you're interested in, that talent community is going to allow you to set job alerts. So when a location becomes available, when a specific role becomes available that you're interested in applying for, you'll get an email right away. The one other thing to take note of that you can get to through that QR code, we do have an upcoming virtual event next week on Thursday, August 31st from 12 to 1 Pacific time, where we'll be doing essentially a virtual event hiring for our field service engineering opportunities across the US. Right now we are hiring across the US and in all locations. So we'll have a couple managers on the call to talk through the positions in some more detail, explain in some more color what a day in the life of a field service engineer would look like. So registrations are open right now. Just wanted to point that out. I'll drop a link into the chat here. But once again, I really appreciate all of your time. It's been an honor presenting to you, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jordan. I really appreciate you. And I know we are running close to time. We had so many wonderful things to say with all the companies. It didn't leave a ton of time for questions. So I will say this. I've been watching the chat. I know that our speakers have been watching the chat as well. If you have questions, I want you to treat this event just as a beginning. Everybody's contact information was dropped into the chat throughout, and we'll see if Miss Renee can go through and drop it once more so it's there. But you saw 4 wonderful different sides to the same industry, 4 wonderful companies. You have contacts with, these individuals. And, with Miss Melinda, who is representing the semiconductor industry as a whole through SEMI. So, and that's connections. I think at the beginning, Miss Melinda said there are 32,000 job openings in the semiconductor industry alone. And that's just amazing. So it's an absolute wonderful industry to explore. But again, I do sincerely apologize that we are at the top of the hour and don't have a ton of time for questions, but that's why follow-up is so important. So really quickly, if somebody was interested in applying at each of your companies, is it best to go ahead and apply, or is there somebody that they can follow up with about an application if they've applied? If each of you don't mind just coming on and giving the best follow-up process, I would really appreciate it.
Now, this is Jordan with ASM here. I'd say best process would be to submit an application and then to follow up with myself via LinkedIn, just to let me know that you've got it in. With you attending this call, this is something that we'd like to expedite things so we can inform recruiters to get moving to review your application.
Yeah, and for us at Microchip, LinkedIn's always a good resource to connect. You guys have our email address, especially if you're interested in a technician role. We're happy to do like intro calls with you, give you an overview one-on-one with the manager. And then if interested, we'll have you apply and go through that process as well.
It's the same thing with us. I echo what Jordan said. Best thing you can do first is apply to the role. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Tell me what role you applied for, and I'll connect you to the recruiter and or the hiring manager so that you can start conversations with them. That's the easiest way to take care of yourself.
Mr. Odin, what about with Nikon Precision? What would be the best way for them to follow up?
Yeah, the best way is to check out our website and the QR code, which has detailed descriptions of our job duties and what life as an FSC is like. Follow up with us on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to get in touch with a recruiter or tell you more about the job and it's kind of what it's like being an FSC.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And again, I truly appreciate all of you taking your time to come and speak with us today. I know that many of you had mentioned that your operations are 24/7. So I know that you're staying exceptionally busy in such a wonderful industry. Ms. Renee, if you don't mind, go ahead and launch the poll, and participants, if you could just take just a few moments to answer a few questions about today's event. But again, treat this as the beginning. Please connect, please explore those career websites and ask questions about those jobs, those roles that you're looking to fill. Make sure you're open up the job description and reading them, because it's not like the military where it's just going to have the same job name at every single company. Really dive in and explore what those roles are. But we hope that you will join us next week as well. We'll be here same time, same location for our next Heroes Connect with West Rock at 3 o'clock. But I hope until then, everybody has a wonderful afternoon, and I truly appreciate all of you being here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren.